Thank you, everyone, for coming here today. We are releasing the final decision from our creditor, the Higher Learning Commission, on a focus visit related to the governing board of the college. As you may know, the college has been developing innovative programs and facilities to meet the changing needs of students and our community, such as more efficient academic pathways to transfer, a massive dual enrollment program for high school students, increased focus on workplace development and job placement, new buildings to meet the training needs of our local employers, and vital resources for our students, such as a robust student life mentor program, laptops and tablets for everyone, and most importantly, recently we opened a daycare center free to qualifying students. Not everyone at the college has embraced these reforms, and we understand that change can sometimes be difficult. In fact, our community has been living in a constant state of change and unrest caused by the need for transformation that go back several years. In the midst of the Great Recession, Pima also faced a scandal caused by the former chancellor and put on probation by the Higher Learning Commission in 2013, prompting a search for a new chancellor and a shakeup of the entire college. This was followed shortly by the state legislature and governor's complete defunding of the college, followed now by 3 years of pandemic and massive economic and social changes across the nation. Change is difficult, and implementing change takes courage and leadership. Unfortunately, some members of the governing board continue to resist needed changes at Pima and have resorted to unethical behavior and making unfounded allegations against the college and the chancellor to thwart reforms and slow down our progress. The result led to a focused visit by the HLC, the Higher Learning Commission, in March. The reviewer's draft report was filed in August of this year and unfortunately was leaked to the media before it had been reviewed by the HLC and a final decision was made on what actions, if any, were needed. Instead, the media published stories about the college's mission being at risk, which it is not. In a letter received by the HLC last Thursday, the Commission's final decision rightfully dismissed all but one of the recommendations included in the draft report, going so far as to add that there was a lack of evidence to support any of the other recommendations. Furthermore, during the interviews, I and my fellow board member, Damian Klinko, requested that the HLC recommend board monitoring going forward due to the behavior of members of the current board that caused us concern. In the final decision of the HLC, they agreed with us and made several recommendations which we welcome and agree with to ensure the governing board acts ethically and responsibly. The actions of a few board members who leak draft documents, violate open meeting laws, and make unfounded, hurtful accusations against the chancellor and the staff to stifle change and innovation should not be tolerated. And the only one that is hurt truly by these actions are our students and the community. We applaud the HLC's actions to stop this unprofessional and unethical behavior. We look forward to implementing the HLC's recommendations so that the governing board fully complies with college policies, HLC standards, and state law. Now, let me introduce Board Vice Chair Damian Klinko.
Thank you, Chair Ripley. At the end of the day, this is a vindication of PCC's leadership and the work of the college. And it's a rebuke of baseless allegations. The Missions College is not at risk. On behalf of the governing board, we want to thank the Higher Learning Commission for recognizing and dismissing unsupported allegations against the college and the chancellor and granting our request for continued monitoring of the governing board to ensure compliance with college policies, HLC standards, and state law. We look forward to implementing the HLC's requested recommendations for the governing board, which include board members being better prepared for meetings, increased transparency, more training for board members, and meaningful dialogue between the board and college executive leadership. We appreciate the HLC and the college's reliance on fact-based evidence in making decisions and recommendations, and that is confirmed in the HLC's final decision. Let me be clear, the college's accreditation is not at risk. In fact, the college has never been stronger. This fall, enrollment is up 9%. High school dual enrollment is up 26%. The college was named one of the 5 exemplary U.S. community colleges by Harvard University. We're one of the top 550 community colleges according to the Aspen Institute, and Forbes named us one of the 5th best employers in Arizona, in addition to our AA2 bond rating by Moody's. But higher education is undergoing massive change, and we, as a board, need to be attuned and react to those changes. Those changes will make people uncomfortable, but we must continue to move the college forward, and I'm confident we can find a way to do that together. The board remains committed to reforming itself, conducting honest self-assessments and evaluations, holding in-depth study sessions, acting professionally and ethically, and finding ways to reach common ground to tackle the enormous challenges ahead of us for the good of the college, our students, our employees, and our communities. You know, I just want to say that it's really a shame at the end of the day that college resources were expended, enormous amounts, in this process, in baseless allegations that engulfed the administration in a process that took months and diverted resources away from our students. And it's unacceptable. And I'm really thrilled at the outcome of this, but more importantly, that we can get back to work serving the students of Southern Arizona and Pima County. And so I'd like to turn it over to Lee Lambert, our Chancellor.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Student success, diversity, and community engagement form the North Star of Pima Community College. It is under that North Star when the college in 2013, through its selection process, chose me to be the next chancellor of the Pima Community College District. They brought me in because of my focus on innovation and change, because of my background around compliance and accountability, my focus on using data to inform as well as evidence-based approaches to the work. Unfortunately, my candidacy was not fully supported by some groups of this community, Seafair to be named. They specifically asked me to step down from the interview process. Some of our faculty did not support me as being selected as the chancellor. Even in the midst of all these realities, I chose to come to this community because I saw the hope and opportunity that existed for this beautiful community in the southwest part of the country. But I came in knowing that we faced the challenges of accreditation, that shortly thereafter we lost state funding, we were faced with declining enrollment, which, by the way, much of the community college sector across the United States have faced declining enrollment, and also to restore employee and community confidence in the district. Well, I'm pleased to say that we've done all of that and so much more. We're no longer on a sanction. We are in a strong, healthy financial position. We have restored employee confidence, and we have stabilized enrollment declines. Even with all of that, the challenges are still enormous for Pima and for community colleges as well as higher education across the United States. But let me just say that all of this represents an enormous amount of change for the community as well as for the college. And so I'm not surprised that some employees would have challenges navigating this level of sea change. I would too. Also, my team, the executive leadership team of the college, we don't always agree on the best path. We differ, and sometimes we get into strong arguments. But I recognize that, and I've been working to strengthen the team, bring in folks from the outside to work with us to make sure that we continue to stay cohesive, that we continue to stay focused on that North Star of student success, diversity, as well as community engagement. But let me just reemphasize. Every recommendation in the report, except one, was refuted due to the lack of evidence. Due to the lack of evidence. The HLC maintained the recommendation that the college clarify the roles of the Office Dispute Resolution and Human Resources regarding employee complaints. The HLC also supported board members' own request that monitoring board actions is needed and added recommendations for doing so, as noted earlier. The college's mission is not at risk. It is simply not true, and it is unethical for the media to continue to draw this conclusion. I just want to reinforce, the HLC's focus is on the board's governance issues and does not engage HR issues that are handled at the administrative level. And I just want to say a special thank you, beyond just my board members, to Jeff Sylvan, to Seth Shippey, and to Phil Burdick. They have done a tremendous job to help navigate the college through these past few months of just, I can't believe, at any other place in the country, when Harvard University holds you up as one of the 5 exemplar colleges, that a community would not be celebrating that employees would not be celebrating that. When Forbes identifies you as one of the top 5 best employers to work for, that just doesn't happen out of the blue. Those are just examples of the great things that we've done at this college, and we will continue to do for this community, because this community deserves nothing less than a premier college focused on excellence. Thank you.
If you guys want to step up to the podium, and if you guys have any questions, they'd be happy to answer them. Press release and the final report are on the table.
We'd like to just note additionally, all documents related to this focus visit are available on the college's website.
I guess I'll go first. Chancellor Lambert, how do you plan on, like, and you two board members, how do you plan on bringing harmony to the board? Because that does seem like that's still an issue ahead of you, despite what this report says.
So let me first begin. So when you work with the Higher Learning Commission, and I've spoken to the president of the Higher Learning Commission, Dr. Barbara Gelman-Danley, she has said the work of the board is the responsibility of the board, not the chancellor or the CEO. In spite of that, I have done a lot of things to work to try to build bridges with the board. But when board members will not meet with you, after repeated requests, it makes it very difficult to build those bridges. So I just want to make that clear. I've done as much as I can to build those relationships. But in the end, it is on the board to police the board.
Then I guess the question goes to you, either of you.
Yeah, can I just hit this real quick? Yes, so one of the things that we will continue to do is we have monthly, sometimes twice monthly training sessions. And in those training sessions, we've focused on and will continue to roles and responsibilities of board members, defining those, understanding them, owning them, and most importantly, following, first of all, knowing what they are, policy and procedure, and just maintaining a professionalism amongst the board members. It's the only thing we really can do at this point when people are dug in, but holding people accountable, this board, we act as a board. We're one unit. We aren't 5 individuals facing the public. So we need to all agree on policy, procedures, and what our real roles and responsibilities are.
And finally, this is an elected body. Each of us are elected by different districts in the county, and it's a democratic process. Each of our decisions are a robust debate, a discussion about what's best for the college, and a vote. And after that vote, we hope to move on. And ultimately, that's how democracy works. And having a 2 to 3 split on a very small percentage of items doesn't make for total dysfunction. Over 90%, well over 90% of our votes are unanimous. And so the board is still functioning. We are still actively engaged in the role of the board in this college. And we agree, there's always opportunity for growth. And that's why we asked for these monitoring tools to be able to help create opportunities for additional education for the board, to create more robust conversations about building those bridges.
The issue is transparency and respect that they have brought forward, not only board members, but now you've got 2 new complaints by faculty groups that you are very well aware of. That transparent and respect, let's go to transparency. When did they receive, all the board members receive this higher learning commission new report? Who's seen this?
Other than the two board members in preparation for today's press conference, did not receive this final decision until today. We're releasing it all to the whole community at the same time.
And the other board members received it?
I had phone calls with the board members who were willing to take my phone call to let them know the final decision of the HLC. But in terms of reports, those were not released until we released them to the entire public.
The board members had talked about, again, transparency and respect. You also have that issue then with the new complaints that you got from the faculty. They said the exact same thing too, transparency and respect. You can get into the details of all of these things, and there is a lot of details, obviously. But one of the biggest concerns that they had, one of the sticking points is this dispute resolution and how the entire process is. So if you can please speak to that. You do have an entire faculty group, these groups that are not happy. And I know you know what the percentage is.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to comment on specific allegations that certain individuals may have filed until I've had a chance to review them, have them investigated properly, and then from that point, then we'll be glad to discuss the details. So with that said, I'm absolutely committed to transparency. I'm absolutely committed to accountability. All of this is about transparency. Just having this press conference to share the outcomes with the community, the entire community, is exactly about transparency and accountability. The reason why we have board meetings and no decisions are made till then is precisely for transparency and accountability.
One more question for Mr. Klingo. I've been receiving word about your residents and whether or not you actually live in the district that you represent. If you could please speak to that.
Sure. I've
Highly credible.
Yeah, so I have lived on 23rd Street for 12 years, and I still live there. My cat lives there. I live there. You're welcome to come down and visit me. That's where I live, and it's where I reside, and it's my home, and it's where my car charger is located. So I'm not sure how else to address that except for I live in this district that I represent, and I have lived there for over 12 years.
Credible sources say that that house is vacant.
Come on down.
Chancellor Lambert, you talked a bit about how this was a waste of student resources that could have been used for students, basically. Could you talk a bit more about the impact that this had on PCC as a school, the impact that it's had, and the impact that you see moving forward?
So let me put it in perspective for you. We just opened up a brand-new child care center. Just to do one aspect of that child care center cost the college over $400,000. So think about that level of resource commitment to this effort leading up to today, how we could have taken similar resources and begin to make other investments that are much critically needed for our students and our community for another child care center at another location at the college. That's the impact of all of these shenanigans that we've been dealing with when folks did not wait until the final results to draw any conclusions about this matter.
Are you saying that this had the kind of cost as the $400,000?
Well, I'm saying it had significant impact on resources in the six-figure category that could have been used for better purposes like child care or some other types of issues we might decide to invest in. The needs are great in this community, especially for our students. Many of our students cannot afford the technology tools to engage in the proper learning environment of the 21st century. They lean on colleges like Pima to help them with that. In fact, our board, when we received our first tranche of CARES money, devoted significant amount of those dollars to just this very issue of technology tools for our students. So there's many places we could invest. The fact that we don't have those resources really hurt our students and our community when it could have been done a lot differently.
Do you have an estimate on how much you spent?
We'd be glad to share that estimate. I don't know the exact money, so I don't want to quote an exact figure, but we'd be glad to share if that's something you'd like to
What's
receive.
the nature of how that was spent? As in, where did that money go? Or why did you spend that much money?
Well, we had to do investigations. We had to hire lawyers. And that doesn't take into account sunk cost of my time, our attorney's time, our staff time. These folks volunteer their time. So when you start to add all of those direct and indirect costs, it gets pretty significant. Not to mention, we're at a place in higher education. And I highly encourage all of you to read The Great Upheaval, because that's telling you what is actually going on in higher education. And Pima is well positioned to navigate and lead the disruption that is underway. But I've had to divert my time and focus away from the great work that has been going on here. And fortunately, not so much so that it's taken us off track, it's just slowed us down a little bit.
Faculty has said that they wanted to be in the process of decision-making as well for policy. This is what they're saying. Is there more of a need to collaborate and communicate than with all of the groups involved? And in the decision-making process, how does that work?
We collaborate with our faculty. Our faculty are involved in key committees of the college. We'd be glad to share with you that level of involvement. Also, our policy development process goes through a phased approach in which faculty are directly, as well as staff, involved in that process. Nothing comes to the board in that regard without that going through a process.
But there's clearly an issue because they feel that they're not being respected. Their voice is not being heard. So there is an issue there. Is there anything that you're going to do to try to resolve that?
The issue is some folks want to have the final say-so in the decisions of the college. Remember, the way this state has set up its decision-making structure, all authority is passed through the board, and only what is delegated down. So how the board is structured, that is, they have delegated all day-to-day management responsibilities to me. Then I push that down through my executive leadership team to seek input into critical decisions of the college. We did that with a number of issues leading up to today, and we will continue to do those things. Now, some people don't like that process. Some people want to have the final say. But that's not the structure that we have here at the college.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Chancellor Lambert, when we started the meeting, you said you came into this role knowing that there was a lot of division and maybe some people didn't want you here. How has that affected your ability to lead, like, through your tenure here?
Well, I think we're standing here as an example of how it's affected my ability to lead the college. Constantly being questioned and criticized for critical decisions that position the college to navigate the 21st century. So a lot of it is just the constant picking apart decisions, all while not providing a vision, an alternative vision. So it's easy to attack. It's harder to lay out a vision that's rooted in trends, rooted in data and evidence. So everything that the board has supported to the centers of excellence are data informed and evidence based. And by the way, that was because we went out to this community and asked them, what is it that you want to see here for this college? That's where the centers of excellence come. But what got lost in all that is that's where the career pathways came from. And all along, CFAIR and a small group of faculty were critical of us doing that work. And we will continue to do that work because it's the right thing to do for this college and for the community.
Well, what do you think do you think there is any solution for you at this point on, sowing some harmony with people who disagree with you?
Well, I'm always willing to work with anyone who wants to build a bridge to a better future for the college. And so I will always continue to work in that direction. That's why we have the structure that we have in place that allows employee involvement and input. But also understand, at the end of the day, the accountability for decisions fall on me, and therefore that's why in many instances I get the final say, subject to board oversight and a different perspective. But in the end, I'm the one who's going to get sued when a decision goes south, not the employees of the college. So when you want the final decision, if you're the one who's going to potentially be the one sued? And so I always think of things in that context. And so we have to not lose that perspective as well.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
I just wanted to add one more thing, because the bottom line in any institution is communication and transparency. And in the spirit of transparency and communication, everything we do at the board is either live streamed, our monthly board meetings, or we put out reports. And we also have monthly, like I said, training sessions, monthly, sometimes twice monthly. Those are also live streamed, and the public is welcome to attend. Every decision we make is done in full transparency at these board meetings, and we have a call to the audience, as well as reports from every aspect of the college. And so it's all there. I urge you to trudge through, if you can, all of our YouTubed, live-streamed board meetings that go back years, and you can see the transparency and the communication and the back and forth that happens. So nothing can be done behind closed doors without the public knowing. Every decision we make is voted on. So we will definitely, that's all we can do at this point, is continue, welcome criticism, welcome all of the opportunities that the entire college has to ask for change, for input or ideas. So at this point, I think it's just going to be more communication and more meetings, face-to-face meetings, now that we've opened things up. Thank you.
So shouldn't this HLC draft report also have been out there for the community to see as well? Why did it have to wait until the final result? Because in there are, sure, I mean, if it does turn out to be then not valid, or whatever the case may be, or how they approach that if you're going to be transparent, shouldn't you be transparent in the entire process?
So the HLC draft report was not released to any of us, because that's the HLC's process. It's a confidential report. None of us got a copy of it. We were,
But you had the answer to it.
but we did not. The board, it was not ready for the board. It had to go through the process where the chancellor had to read it and to respond. This is the process the HLC has in place, where he responds to any kind of recommendations, allegations, et cetera. And that whole process lasted until, I'm not sure, till now, I guess, where the final decision on those recommendations by the peer reporters were reviewed and decided upon. And you see that the final decision was, they basically rejected pretty much everything in that report. How it was leaked, we don't really know. We can assume perhaps, but we'll find out. But that was not the right process to follow. And so, yes, in terms of transparency, we're here now, and the final report is what is most important. Absolutely. Anything else? Phil?
All good?
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.